Welcome back to DissedMedia, a startup story, the podcast where I take you along our journey of starting DissedMedia from the ground up. You get to hear all about our challenges and accomplishments as we either grow DissedMedia or go bust. Either way, you're going to have a front row seat to hear it all. And along the way, we're going to have some special guests who share with us their wisdom and insights and what helped them along their startup journey to success. So get ready as we get into it and try to help those get better at what they do. Welcome back, everybody, to DissedMedia, a startup story, the podcast where I take you along our journey to boom or bust. I am your host, Ben Olmos, and this week we're a little delayed in getting the podcast out. It's mostly because I've been working on stuff to deliver back to our audience, the people who are interested in watching the journey as we are taking it. Not necessarily it's going to help people see what's going on in live time, but will give you a little bit of insight into all of these things that I mentioned. You know, a lot of times I talk about our stats, where we are with things, and I can certainly understand there might be some element of people out there who say, is that true? Because as a consumer of some of our social media, you don't really get to see, the stats per se. Well, as I do here, as we do with the Daily Pitch, as we do with DissedMedia, this podcast is supposed to be helping you understand the ups and the downs and the journey of starting a business and what all of that entails. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was really open up and share, what do our social media stats look like? And obviously I can't give you access to our account to see that stuff, but I spent a little bit of time putting some things together that I think if you're a data nerd like me, you're going to like it. I think you are going to enjoy it, even if you're not a data nerd and you're just naturally curious about things, what works, what doesn't work, just some added analytics. Got something to share with you. So we're going to get into all of that. Only a couple stories that we put out this week, primarily because most of my week has been consumed in the after hours and the wee hours working on this thing that I'm going to share with you. I think it's pretty cool. Hope you think it's cool too. But before we get into all of that, let's hit some of the numbers and talk about where we are. So this week, looking back 30 days, let's start off with the podcast. So Spotify, and it's interesting. I don't know why this didn't occur to me before. I've really only been looking at Spotify data, but realizing that we're also on Apple Podcast, and through Spotify, we get fed to all of the other major platforms. Right now, I'm just going to focus on Spotify and Apple. I kind of feel like they're the two big ones out there. I know we get into iHeartRadio. There's several other platforms we get picked up on, but these are the two that I'm going to talk about. And if any representatives from other podcasting platforms say, hey, you idiot, you should be talking about us too, fine, no problem. I will. I'm not as smart as you when it comes to this. So there we go. All right. Spotify, last 30 days, 14 plays, totaling 3 hours. We did pick up one subscriber on the podcast. So that's kind of cool on Spotify. And with Apple, we actually have 5 followers there as well, but more plays. We actually get more plays on Apple. So 28 plays there and 5 hours of listening on that platform. So altogether, we have, about a dozen subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, would love it if you did. And then, it'll go +1 and I'll be able to say, hey, we got a new one. And that might be you. If you give us a shout out, better yet, if you give us a review, then I can do a shout out, say, hey, Jim gave us an excellent review. Thank you, Jim. All right. Anyways, there's got to be a Jim out there somewhere. Okay. LinkedIn, happy to say, personally, my personal LinkedIn broke over 1,000 followers. So that's kind of cool. But in addition to that, post impressions, and I have a feeling that this is just because of all the stuff that I've been doing this week, working on this thing has not allowed me to do article writing. I'll explain more about this thing in a moment, but post impressions went way down this week. I'm down 53% on post impressions. Now, the good news is that my new posting strategy has been working really well. And even though I was working on this thing I'm going to reveal later on, my posts have continued to garner attention. So the impressions over the last 28 days are actually up 182%. So very happy with that number. And when I looked at DissedMedia, the company page, we're again down 49%, but up 186% with impressions. We've also got 4 reactions and 1 repost out of things on the company page. So the company page does mirror what the individual page publishes. It's just trying to broaden my reach and get more people, right? I've only got 1,000 followers. Like, need more than that. But anyway, so that's good with that. I'm happy with those numbers. I obviously not ecstatic. I'd be more happy if it was 2,000 followers, but I'll leave that up to you guys. See if you find me interesting enough to follow around. The LinkedIn stats, I hope, I'm going through some things to try and make those numbers a little bit easier to get, but we'll talk about that again in the reveal in a little bit. Lastly, TikTok, 1,900 views over the past 30 days, 11 likes, 2 comments, and 1 share. One of the comments that was brought to my attention, I am going to get into on this podcast. So, follower or commenter, I don't know if they follow us or not, but commenter, thanks for bringing it to my attention. It is something I was going to cover anyways. And again, listeners, hang in there. We're going to get to it before we do. And now I know you're probably saying, but wait a minute, what happened to the other stats? You didn't talk about Facebook. You didn't talk about Instagram. You didn't talk about YouTube. Well, that's because now if you're listening to this on the video, or if you're watching the video, and in fact, if you're following the social media, I'm going to post this part of it on social media because I think it's kind of cool anyway. So one of the things that I've been working on, and later on in the podcast, I'm going to go through, talk to you a little bit about how I put it together and what it all means for future stuff. But if you are watching the podcast, let me go ahead. I am going to share my screen here. Okay, so if you are watching the podcast, one of the things I'm going to share with you, if you go to dailypitch.news onto our homepage, there is a new navigational option in the menu bar above, and it is called Social Media Dashboard. One of the things that I have done is I have taken the feeds from Facebook, from Instagram, from YouTube, and I am publishing our data from our social media pages to that page. With YouTube, what I'm doing is I'm giving you a snapshot of what our YouTube journey currently looks like, right? So you can see the total number of videos that we've posted in the last 30 days, which is 12. We have 2,144 views in the last 30 days, 33 new subscribers in the last 30 days, and we haven't lost anybody. I also give a little bit of a waterfall chart here, which is kind of cool. And it's only quarterly because quite honestly, my channel didn't have a whole lot of subs until this quarter, the Q3. And I'm going to go into why we got that bump. I hinted at it last week in the podcast, and this week I'm going to give a little bit more of an explanation for it, but shows you the increase in subscribers that we have. And then the total video views. When we first started the channel way back in 2023, and you can see this in the graph here, Q3 2023, we had 574 views. And man, I thought it was awesome. I put out these videos that were quotes and they were just quick little snippet things and they took off and people liked them. And then all of a sudden, I think the algorithm said, those suck, and just stopped serving them up to people. And you can see in the graph, like it just dies. It just dies off and you can no longer see it, which is kind of a bummer. Then I also have a window that shows the top performing videos with the number of views, the number of subs that the video got, and any subs that were lost. And then down below, the top 10 performing videos of all time as well. And on this right now, I don't have the link that will take you to the video, but I am going to try and get that put in there. Now, that's YouTube. If you click the little next page at the very bottom, it'll take you to our Facebook reach. And it gives you our numbers. And what I'm doing, I have 3 Facebook pages. I've mentioned this before, that all of the data, all of the articles that I create get published to. And so I'm pulling data from each of those 3 pages and sharing with you guys like the total reach of all pages combined, total reach, total clicks, impressions, posts, reactions. I got 2 little line graphs here that are showing you over the past 30 days how many impressions we've made. You can see right around August, around mid-August, we just took off in the number of impressions. And by the way, that's also when I started putting videos out. And definitely, Facebook loves videos. You can see it in the data. You can see, like, here we are posting just regular kind of things, and then all of a sudden, boom, video, love it. So anybody out there who's using Facebook, they love video. You can clearly see that in our data. Down below, we have all impressions and clicks. With these are kind of sorted by date and also by the number of impressions and number of clicks. Now, what's really cool about this, and if you're watching this online, you're going to see this, we can fold out underneath the date and see which page garnered the roll up number for impressions and clicks. So that's kind of cool. But then in addition to that, you can say, well, what was the content? There's a post link. And if you click that post link, it'll actually take you to the post itself. And, what was the post that got all of that attention? And one of them here is actually one that one of our contributors, Colin, had created. He actually, unbeknownst to him, he's probably hearing this in the podcast right now and going, what? I'm famous? Yes, you are, Colin, because your post that you put out there on the guide to becoming an airline pilot, which is something that Colin has dabbled in, it's one of the most popular posts that we put out there on Facebook. So good for you. Congratulations, Colin. Appreciate it. Next, we have reactions by total number of reactions. And this is just kind of sorted by date so we can see, which post has gotten the most reactions. And then page insights over the last 30 days and for all time. So, and you can see the number of likes, loves, wows, sadness, angry faces, whatever. We have no angries in our lifetime. So if you want to test this, don't give me any angry just because, like, that. Okay, sure, you'll be the only one that pops up on the scoreboard here, but give some likes, make some comments. That's a much more fun way to see our content spread in a positive way. But if you want to be, it's a little pill, fine, do it. Anyway, moving on to page number 3. This is Instagram. And again, Instagram, we created the account a while ago. It's laid dormant for a while. Only recently have we really gotten back into putting stuff out there. And you can see that our reach just, again, mid-August started to tick up, and reach currently at 1575 for the past 30 days. 14 followers on our Instagram. You want to follow us? We appreciate it. Get little videos like this in your feed. As you can see, all of our posts, all of our 18 posts in the last 30 days have been video. If I have any other types of posts, those will show up here in the little bar graph. And similar to the Facebook data, if you go through here, you can click on a post. It will take you to the actual post. And, there's me, my smiling face, and telling you something maybe you already know. But anyway, that's it. So what I am trying to do with this data, this dashboard, how do you tell the story of a business struggling to get attention, of a business trying to make its mark, and not give you all the highs and the lows and all of that? When I share the data with you and I give you the guys the numbers, like, the bad stuff isn't made up. And I'm giving you guys the opportunity to come in and see that with your own eyes and click around. And by the way, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it could be better. Now, keep in mind, and I've had a few people reach out to me recently on my YouTube videos, and they're like, "Hey, we can SEO optimize your stuff." And thank you. I appreciate you guys reaching out. And I know you're trying to make money too, like everybody. And I 100% support that. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have the budget to do that. We hope to one day, but we've got to sell more classes online. We've got to get more engagement. We've got to get more people interested in what we're doing here and jumping on the daily pitch train and the DissedMedia bandwagon. I do see that in the future. And when we get there, and hopefully we get there in a timely manner, we'll have the opportunity to do that. So, don't lose interest in us. We're still going to plow on. There's still a lot of gas in the engine and a lot of tread on the tires. So we're pushing forward, but keep in mind, I don't have really just don't have anything to pay anybody right now. This is all me. And so when I take time, and you're seeing it in this data, by the way, when I take time to take my eyes off of the content and focus on something on the back end to make the story better. And I think this dashboard does make the story better. It takes away from our visibility. And over the last week, like, our numbers have crashed, and, it kind of sucks, but we'll get back there. We'll get back. I just got to now refocus back to this other thing. So, anyways, I'm going to talk about the dashboard, how we put it together, and all of that here in a moment. All right, but before we get more into the numbers in the dashboard and how I built that, the very next thing I do want to get into are the couple articles I was able to crank out this week and just kind of hit those. So if you are seeing this content, if you do like articles like this, if you feel like this is something that's interesting to you, again, our mantra, helping managers, leaders, and entrepreneurs get better at what they do. This is our attempt to do that each week. And so let's go through the articles and share with you some of the insights that I talked about earlier this week. The first article we have is Approaching Compensation and Equity Conversations with Transparency. This article really kind of talks about the fact that compensation transparency is becoming more and more something that companies are being required to do. In the past, we used to always say, don't talk about how much you get paid, don't talk about your compensation. Those aren't conversations to have. And, over time, people have realized that not talking about pay, and I think I really saw this a lot during the housing bust back in 2008, and even more so around COVID. Look, when you're out of work, or when you're looking for work, or when you need more money, for some people, all bets are off. Like, there's no shame in looking for work, there's no shame in being out of work. And it's important to have conversations about how much do you need to be able to take care of the things that you have going on in your life. And so having more transparent conversations around compensation is really important for this evolving workforce that we have. When companies are more transparent about pay, it does build credibility, and it does help people feel like nothing is being hidden. It helps to foster a little bit more loyalty and fairness. In some cases, in some states, it is really becoming a legal requirement to post that information out there. Now, something I want to share with you guys, if you weren't aware, there actually is a government-run website. It's called ONET Online. And when I teach, I tell my students about this website all the time. It's a website that captures virtually every job title in the US. And along with that, what the knowledge, skills, and abilities are for that job, what's required, whether that job is trending upward or whether there's, a decline in that kind of work, whether the salaries for that job are climbing. You can not only find out what you may need from a higher education requirement standpoint, but also what the pay is, not just the national pay, but it gets all the way down to the specific county you live in, what people are typically getting paid for that job title where you live. It's a powerful bit of information that you can use in salary negotiations, in just building your own brain around your own pay, whether, where you kind of fit on that spectrum. And then the other thing to think about is if you're thinking about transitioning into a new career, or you're going to college and you're looking at your job prospects and you're like, I'm not sure what I want to do, or maybe you do have an idea and you're getting this degree to go into a field, this is a website that you may want to go to and find out, like, the money that you're spending on that degree, what is the likely salary you're going to get for a job that degree allows you to do or further enables you to do. Are you maybe paying a little bit more for your degree than you should, given what you're going to earn in a job, in that job that you're looking for, right? So great website, ONET Online. Go check it out. It is a fantastic website for you to look at and kind of goes along with our article here about equity conversations and transparency. All right. The next article that we talked about was psychological safety at work, identifying burnout boundaries and behavioral red flags. Something to note about this article is that, burnout isn't really just an employee problem. And I think for many generations of workers, when they see somebody who is experiencing burnout, they kind of put all of that on the individual. Burnout isn't just an employee issue. It really is kind of a signal to leadership that maybe something is not right. And this isn't to say that every leader is to blame for employee burnout, but sometimes some of the things that we're doing on the job, the requirements we have, the environment we've created, the resources that we may not have, the number of people doing the job, there's a whole series of things that could lead up to it. And, there is an old saying in statistics, right? One data point does not a trend make. But, when we have more than one data point, when we have more than a few people experiencing similar symptoms, it's something that we really got to pay attention to and dig into to kind of find out what might be driving that. For the worker, silence is not safety, right? Do not feel like speaking up and saying something and being vocal about it is, somehow going to label you in a negative light. And for leaders out there, it's important to make sure that we don't set that stage, right? There is a time when we need to be head down and focused on the objective and working hard. But we can't do that in the absence of turning a blind eye to some of the things that people may go through while trying to get there, and not really creating an environment where people don't feel like they can speak up or, kind of have an honest conversation about their burnout symptoms with their leadership. So, ways that we can kind of better detect burnout, ways to kind of act upon it early, and normalizing those boundaries that are associated with burnout. This article gets into all of that. So if you like those kind of things, as I mentioned, you like having insight and information around topics like that, go check out dailypitch.news. Those are a couple articles we put out this week, and maybe it'll help you in some of the knowledge that you're trying to acquire around those things. All right, so let's get back to data and statistics and dashboard and all of this stuff. So one of the things, so why did I put our data out there? Why did I put our social media data out there? Well, there are a couple of reasons. When I prep for this show, it's one of those things that I do that takes a little bit of time. And I am an operations guy at heart. I am a process workflow person, and I hate wasted time. I like to get a lot of things done. I like to constantly be busy and have my hands in a lot of stuff. And for me to be efficient at the stuff that I do, I need to have flow. I need to have processes and workflows and things that just kind of all fit together and enable me to do things quickly. And what I was finding is that in preparation for this podcast, I would prep for a couple hours, and a good hour or more of my preparation was going through and pulling all of this data together around our stats and looking at it. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to mention? And again, this show is only supposed to be like 30 minutes or so I'm trying to do all of this in a very concise way, and it was really just becoming a chore. And so what did I do? I spent several days in my after hours and several hours this weekend. So here's what I did. I'm like, there's APIs, right? And for those who are not as familiar with that, these are little bits of instruction that you can, with the right authorizations, you have to set up some keys and things like that. You can pull data directly out of Facebook and directly from, I did it with Facebook and YouTube, and it'll allow you to pull all of that data. They give it to you on the website, but obviously, like I said, you got to hunt for it, right? So I decided I am going to write some code to pull that data into my server and set up some SQL tables, right? So, and then set up some cron jobs to pull that data on a regular basis. And so basically twice a day, I have some code that goes out and it pulls all of my social media stats and stores them on my server. I then, because I use Power BI and I'm, BI and analytics is kind of what I do, right? So then I wrote a script in Power BI to pipe into my website, pull all of that data into Power BI. And then I wrote a bunch of measures to count up and kind of quantify, do the math on all of that data that I kind of walked you through, and built some dashboards, and whammo bammo, there it is. Put all of that in Power BI. And then I took a little, web URL, little iframe, then and posted that iframe to my website. And that's where you now have the link. And then that link pulls the data directly out of Power BI. And there you go. Those are my social media stats. I was able to get Facebook and YouTube because I'm already established with them. I've done other things and I've verified my business and all that other stuff. I have not been able to get LinkedIn yet. Still waiting on approval to get my developer credentials to develop an app with them. TikTok, still working on TikTok. There's a couple more things I got to go through with TikTok as well. Everybody kind of has their own procedures for this. Obviously, you guys might remember back in 2016, we had this election and a lot of people were like, what? You can get this data out of Facebook? And people found out you can get a whole lot of crazy amounts of data and things we probably shouldn't have been able to get out of Facebook. And there was this congressional hearings and people clamped down on all this stuff. So there's a lot more toll gates you have to go through for this stuff, which, by the way, not bad. I'm not criticizing that at all. It's just that, it takes a little bit longer than it used to. I remember back in the day, like you could just like do it very quickly with little resistance. And, now it just takes longer. So going through that process of getting approvals. So I'm going to try and get TikTok and LinkedIn data as well. But it takes a while to do that, and then set up the calls and set up the tables and pull them in and build the dashboard. So I think for now, because I've literally taken days putting this together, and it's kept me away from article writing, it's kept me away from the podcast, it's kept me away from video editing, it's kept me away from a lot of things. I'm going to pause with what I've got right now. I'm not going to worry too much about LinkedIn, primarily because LinkedIn will only let me pull my business page data. It won't let me pull my personal page data. TikTok, I can quickly go in there and get my data, so I'm not too overly concerned about that. There's not a whole lot that I'm going to get out of TikTok that I don't get now. And, the podcast, again, the numbers aren't so complex, but the others, it was just taking me a little bit. And, what's cool is like now you can actually just link to the content, and then hopefully from the content, even link back into articles that are driving those numbers. So really cool. I love doing this kind of stuff. It has been my professional background. I do sales and marketing operations support, and this is kind of in my wheelhouse of things. And I thought, wow, that'd be kind of fun to do. So whipped it together, and there you go. For your guys' benefit, you get to come along the journey and see what we're doing. Like I said, I try to be kind of an open book about what it takes to get this thing running and how challenging it can be at times. So, all right, last thing, want to get into our listener audience questions, if you will. And I had a question recently on TikTok when I shared my video about what it took to get to the 2,000 views and 300 subscribers. In literally, I said it was a week. In reality, it was one day. It was 24 hours. I got over 2,000 views and on nearly 300 subscribers off one video. How did I do it? Recently, I was at VidFest. I mentioned that before in a previous podcast, and there was a speaker who mentioned that this tip, right? And I'm not going to mention his name yet because I really want to kind of get his okay on that. And also, I'm trying to lure him into doing a podcast. So if I can do that, I'm going to let him explain it as well. But one of the things that he mentioned was he said, the United States isn't the only English speaking population of English speaking people in the world. What he did was he targeted English speaking people who live in India, because India is a huge market for YouTube. And there are You know what? Let me look up real quick the population of India. India, 1.45 billion people in India. If we look at that number as who speaks English, 129 million, right? 129 million out of 1.45 billion. And so he said his tip, like, mark the when you're going to boost a video and boost it for English speaking, include India and other English speaking countries, and let her rip, right? I spent $20, and for $20 I got over 2,000 views and I got almost 300 subscribers within 24 hours. Okay, that's the upside. If you're looking for social proof for your channel, if you're looking to show that, you've got numbers behind you, that's one thing. Here's the downside of it though. Keep in mind that you are telling the algorithm basically that most of your content is enjoyed over here. And where most people who are in the US, even people outside of the US who are really trying to break into the market of dollars and cents, right? Make your value out of your channel, not just looking for views, not just looking for subs, but you're looking for ad revenue and YouTube revenue at that. Most of that better revenue is going to come from the US market. And for a business like ours, we are really tailoring a lot of things that we talk about to things that are probably more prevalent in US business as opposed to international business. I'm not saying that we don't have an audience for the content that is international, but a lot of the things that we talk about are very domestic in nature. So if I go and I cultivate an audience that is primarily based in another part of the world, and I'm trying to bring focus to, ultimately at the end of the day, we want people to get on Daily Pitch Academy. We want people to engage in our newsletter. We want people to see sponsors that we have for us here in the US. It's going to be hard to really talk about that audience if that audience isn't primarily here. So it was a good experiment and I'm glad that I did it, just because it's kind of encouraging sometimes. I showed you guys my YouTube dashboard. Like, you see the subs were just low, 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 and then all of a sudden, boom. It's one of the reasons why I said that, yeah, we're going to have other podcasts that are other videos that we put out there, and they're probably not going to do as well. You can go back and look at the numbers. Like, I'm publishing it, like I'm putting it all out there for you guys to see. They haven't done as well. And it's not just SEO. And again, the people who've reached out to me, as a matter of fact, one of the people that reached out to me, they're like, I can SEO your stuff and you're going to get seen far greater. And they came back to him and I said, well, yeah, but I'm targeting a US audience. How well can you SEO optimize and ensure that the US audience is going to pick up on it? And even he came back to me and he goes, well, yeah, if it's the US audience that you're targeting, you're probably going to have to spend a little bit more money. And I get that. Of course, you're going to have to spend more money to target a US audience. It's in the world of trying to get eyeballs on your content and make money doing that. It is the most, I don't want to say the most valuable, because I don't really mean it in like it's more important than any other audience, but in the terms of making money, yeah, it kind of is. So anyway, that's the tip. I hope if you guys want to try it out, you certainly do, but know that the caveat there, the warning signal is, yes, you can do that, but you're going to garner a higher number of people who are possibly not your target audience for other things that you may want to do, right? It's not just all about views from anywhere. Views from certain places just carry a higher value than other things. It's one of the reasons why I cherish my LinkedIn followers and I cherish my LinkedIn audience, because that really is my target audience. People who are in business, people who are actively looking for improving their edge, improving their knowledge, improving, how to do better at what they do. And not to say that there aren't plenty of other people in a lot of other niches that aren't valuable. I mean, they certainly are, but I kind of know what audience I want to go after and the kind of people that I'm trying to reach, and really that's my audience. So if I have a large number of YouTube consumers who may not necessarily be my ultimate target audience, it becomes a little bit challenging. If I'm talking about starting up a business here in the US and all of the things related to that, it's not it my concern is it wouldn't resonate as well over there. And so that's one of the reasons why I did it. I did it once. It was awesome. It was cool to watch it take off. I did run another test, another $20, only targeted the US. Actually, I targeted the US, Canada, the UK, Australia. I think that was it, right? Just primary tradition, and it did not near. I think I got one sub out of it. So that's it. That's how you do it. So there's the tip. You're welcome to go try it out for yourself, but be warned, it may not yield the total thing that you're looking for. But now when people go to my YouTube channel and they see that I've got over 300 subscribers, that's kind of cool. So I'll take it. But even though not totally everything that I would want, I would much rather have 300 more people in my target niche than just 300 anybody. And by the way, no offense to you, I love it. Thank you. Watch, I'm going to see my next update is going to be like, I lost 150 subscribers because I insulted them and they now think I'm terrible. Anyway. All right, folks, that is the wrap up for this week. I appreciate you guys checking out DissedMedia, a startup story. I'm going to continue cranking away, sharing what we do, how we do it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you'll subscribe and come back for more. Give it a like, give it a follow. Love all of that. Thank you all very much for your time and attention. That's it. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to DissedMedia, a startup story. This podcast was produced and edited by Ben Olmos and is a production of DissedMedia Corporation. If you're interested in learning more about anything you heard on this episode, please reach out to us at podcast@DissedMedia.com. You can also get more information about this and other episodes or information about our guests by checking out dailypitch.news, our business and insights publication focused on helping managers, leaders, and entrepreneurs get better at what they do.